Welcome to the Interview Podcast, the voice of InterCT. InterCT's aim is to help young athletes become excellent individuals through the vehicle of soccer. Love the game, love to learn, and love to compete at InterCT.
Hello, everybody. We're back for another podcast, The Interview. Unfortunately, Leon can't be here with us today, but we are joined by Coach Tom and Coach Imade. First off, we can start about everybody's weekends. We can start there. Tom, how was your weekend with the 15s?
Yeah, it was good. It was for me, it was strange. I had nothing to do on Saturday, which is very unusual. Usually my Saturdays are crazy and then my Sundays are a little bit lighter, but I had nothing Saturday, and then my guys played up at AC Connecticut, our little partnership club that we work with for the USL and the ECRL team. So yeah, it's always good playing against them. It's usually a challenge, which is good. We want that for the kids. My guys are a good group. A lot of learning to be done with them being U9s, but I think overall, from what I heard from the girls regional, good weekend for them. Boys, a little bit of a mixed bag of results, but kind of expected against AC. Like I said, it is a good organization, and that's why we do partner with them at the older age groups. And then I just like the Zone 1 Academy format for the boys. The fact that I can coach, and then I've got Imade behind me coaching on the field next to me, and if there's any issues, I can help him. If there's any issues, he can help me, and I think it's just a good environment having more of our teams at the same facilities and being in there, and you can watch the 14s, they can watch the 15s, and it's just a cool overall experience for everyone involved.
No, I agree with that. The way that it's scheduled now in the format for the Zone 1 Academy, I think definitely, one, it helps parents, I think, because they know, okay, he has two games here, so if we show up early or we show up later, whatever, something like that, we at least know where we're going to be. But for coaches, it's I know that I have 2 games back to back always. So for me, I don't really have to worry about getting somewhere else but yeah, it was unfortunate for at least my RL boys. We didn't fare too well. But the SL boys pulled off a good W this past weekend, and even a progression from first weekend till now, it's getting better. So, Imade, how'd you do this weekend?
It was a tough day at the office on Sunday. Saturday was free, similar to what Tom had, and then my Sunday, at least time-wise, was good. So I had back-to-back SL, and then RL, and then EDP. All against ACC. We lost all of the games. Each of them, one of them was 5-1. That was RL. 5-2 SL, and 5-2 EDP.
Ooh.
But looking at the boys within themselves and making strides, I am seeing them have little progressions that make me happy. Playing on the big goal is always going to be a challenge for them, I think, at this level. The goalkeepers aren't expected to be able to dive across the goal and save every shot.
Right.
But like I said, I'm seeing little progressions that make it interesting to watch, I can say.
And then, it's only the second game of the season, so we have much more to
room for improvement. Yeah.
I think home field advantage comes into it a lot, right? We used to have a saying, Imade, and you're lucky you've probably not experienced it as much as myself and Aaron, the All Saints bounce. Before we had the turf and we'd spent so much money on the grass, the ball, you could control it and it hit you in the nose, it hit you in the shin, it could go anywhere. And you can see with the other teams, they're just used to playing at their facilities. AC Connecticut know how to play on that big field, play with those big goals. And it'll be the same case this weekend when we play against Chelsea Piers on the Zone 1. They're great playing indoors on that big turf field. And it's just, we got to get used to it. And then obviously when we host at home later on in the season, we have that advantage there as well.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely looking forward to this weekend, seeing how, the comparisons between our boys against AC and now compared to Chelsea Piers.
This is my first time at Chelsea Piers, so
it's a cool facility.
I'm hearing good things.
It's a very cool facility.
It's a good facility. Just make sure you hydrate, because it's like coaching at Sono. I always leave with a headache. It's so loud. It's so echoey. If you try shouting to a kid on the other side of the field, he's got no chance of hearing you. Because they're so close to the birds, and it's one of those where there's borderline not needing us there because they can't hear a word you say on the other side. It's that loud in there, but it's it's a fun experience, and it's ultimately like it's a good turf. There's no excuses for bad passes or bad touches or that stuff. So it's kind of it's the facility, like the playing surface is what we want, but obviously the environment's just a little bit loud and crazy at times.
Yeah, that ball moves fast over there.
Yeah, it's quick.
So we can start off with a couple of our discussions over here. So we had every season we have these weekend recaps. In previous years it was just the email that we sent out either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. But something that we do to recap the game, recap the weekend, and also include some of the things that we found during the week. We all include it in that recap. So, Tom had suggested and has been doing the video recaps for a little while now. Tom, can you just tell us about, your experience going from email to video?
Yeah, so for me, most people listening to this know that spelling is not my strength, and writing an email could take somebody 10 minutes. For me, take me the best part 40 minutes, 50 minutes. So we had a meeting with Sports Engine. They was like, hey, do you know there's a video function? And then we started testing it out, and what I started getting told by the families who were on my team at the time is they just like it. They can have it in the background. They don't have to set aside any time to actually read. They can just listen in while they're doing the laundry or while they're driving to school. And that was one of the cool ones that one of the families shared with me, is they would listen to it on the commute to All Saints or to school. So they would then be able to talk about the points as a family, because we do need everybody to be on the same page. There's no point the coach is trying to do something and then parents are telling kids the total opposite, because there's no point being part of the club. You know what I mean? We've all got to be part of the same idea and trying to achieve the same goal, which is ultimately developing these soccer players. So I went to the video recap, and for me, it's much easier for me to get to those guys that watch my videos. Typically, you see a guest appearance from my son. It's very rare that I have 10 minutes without craziness in my life with the club and what goes on at home. So for me to do a little video and he can pop in and just check on everybody, say hello, it's kind of easier for me. When I used to coach 4 teams, I was getting till Thursday before I got all my emails out. And I was like, there's no point me doing a weekly update when I don't get it out till Thursday and the week's already over. So right. For me, just easier. I typically do mine straight after the game. Sometimes when I drove home and I park up, recap my game, and then I post it out Monday morning, Monday afternoon. So I personally like that. I know we have coaches who are very good with the grammar and the writing, and they enjoy doing it. Someone like an Anthony Quinn, his reports are really good, and Sean Ribchester, who we've brought in on the boys' side, his reports are very good as well. And it's just kind of we've got out of the habit of telling coaches what to do and giving them the option of do something that they're comfortable with, because it's the same outcome, right? You know what I mean? It's whether the information's in an email or in a video, it's still the same no matter how we do it.
Imade, do you do a video or an email?
I've been emailing. It's something I did at the last club, so it was kind of easier for me to segue into it. And I think for me, it's just easier for me to arrange my thoughts as I'm typing. I have a little more time to think about things. Sometimes during the game, I'm writing things down, so it's easier for me to take that and then apply it into an email. Do I think it's easier than using the video? I can't say for sure because I've never experimented. So
Aaron did it once. Aaron experimented once and never went back.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't like it.
Well, I used to do the emails, and it would take me better part of 3 hours because I'm trying to get everything in it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be detail oriented. I'm trying to recap the game in the best possible way. And, the emails are very good for that. You have all the details and everything, bullet points, whatever you have. I just think that the video is a lot more personal. You can hear me talk about it. You can hear my emotion. You can hear my voice. And, I don't get all of the same details in it, but once I did it and I watched it back, I thought, oh, there's some value here. This is something that we can use. And, once we really start establishing that, I have ideas now. Maybe we do it like some sort of like interview with, my mind goes crazy with these ideas, but I just think that the video is it's a lot more personal, I know I see Tom's face now. I said ideas.
That's
I
what we want. That's what we want from you guys. We want you to feel involved, you know what I mean, and work towards something, and it not just be everyone at the club thinks everything's just me, Leon, and Marty. You know, we want you guys. You're a big part of it. Without you guys, there is no club. So we want you guys to feel like you have creative freedom to run with it, and that's basically what I did with the videos. Right, I hate writing massive emails. And that was just an easier way for me to be successful, and then ultimately kind of works from there. I do think they are good just for one, recapping the game. Obviously, the game's important, but for me, it's not the most important thing in the week. For me, I evaluate my practices as well. I kind of explain with the parents on my team is if there's something I didn't like in practice. So I'm having a little one with one of my teams where they're kind of struggling from that transition from being U8s, the U9s, and the seriousness of practice is different and the environment's slightly different, and just trying to get used to that. So I was just explaining, hey, this is how I'm going to manage the sessions. If this happens, then you'll see this and this. I think it's just an easy way just to get that out there and just keep everyone in the loop. Like in my video this week, I'm already talking about Poughkeepsie. I'm saying, hey, we've got the Poughkeepsie tournament coming up. It's probably going to be this time. It's a crazy environment. It's an air horn goes off, 24-minute game, 3 minutes, and then the next game comes on. So just getting people ready for it and just like kind of talking from, like, I've been lucky enough to work for this club for 8 years. So there's nothing really that pops up that's unusual to me. But that's where like me doing these videos as well, and somebody has a question, it's like, oh, I have no worries. I already know the answer, and then I can help relate it to everyone else. And I think that's what's going to be the beauty of this podcast. I actually had somebody email me this morning saying they really enjoyed the last episode and they got a lot of information out of it. And that wasn't Leon telling me that, or my wife, or my mum, who I think are like our main 4 listeners that we had.
Yeah, great. That's that's awesome. I think there's benefits to both, formats, but really it's whatever the coach feels that will best benefit the team and best, get the information out there. So the next topic we have here is the roster size. I'll start with this one because I've coached basically all different field sizes. I've had all different roster sizes, being the smallest one being when I had the NAC 2 years ago, we had 10, playing 7v7. So, the roster size is a big thing. One, for playing time. It's difficult to get in everybody at the same amount of playing time each match if I have 20 kids on a roster playing 11v11. So yes, of course, some players, depending on their position, they'll play a little bit more than, say I have 8 wingers on that team. A center midfielder, defensive center midfielder will play a little bit more than, say, one of the 8 wingers that I have. But, at the same time, we try to get everybody the same amount or similar playing time throughout the season. It's looked more of as a seasonal thing compared to like a game. So if you play, on a Sunday, you play 20 minutes, 25 minutes, but the next Saturday you play 50, there's a way for it to balance out. So for me, it's a more seasonal thing, at least for the older age groups, like 2010 and on, or even 2011. But, it's something that, yes, we've heard from people about it, but I just know that as a coach and also as a player, it's important to know where the coach is coming from in that. So,
yeah, from like my point of view, has to obviously manage these questions and obviously the rosters themselves. We just follow CGSA guidelines. So for those that don't know what CGSA is, that's the Connecticut soccer governing body for the state, and they set the limits. So 7v7 is 12 to 13, 9v9 is 15 to 16, and 11v11 on the rule is up to 22. I don't go up to 22 because that's a little bit crazy for 11v11. So we operate in 18 to 20, which where you see most of our teams are at. So 2 or 3 things kind of going on with this, right? We are a club that does promote multi-sport athletes. I'm not somebody who's going to tell a kid that they can't play another sport. So we've got to prepare for that. If somebody is going to go and play football or hockey or lacrosse or all these other cool sports that exist in this country that we don't have where I'm from, it's a thing that we never happened in England. Everyone just played football in England, and that was it. We didn't have to worry about that. But with that happening, over here, there's so many sports. So one, we need to cover that. And then there are a few holidays that pop up. We do want families to be able to spend time together. If you've got a wedding or a family vacation, we want you to go and do those things and enjoy it, knowing that we have enough players over here to kind of take care of that. And I know it's a little bit difficult to see it right now because it's right at the start of the season, but keep in mind when we start getting to the school breaks, like a spring break, when we hit that one, we'll be crying out for extra kids because that's just the way it is. I've been on a roster with, when I used to coach 11v11, I had 20 kids on my roster and I had 8 of them on vacation. We can't move the game because of that. We've just got to play. And these are the reasons why we've got to go from it. And like Aaron said, it's game time. We like to do it over the course of the year. It's a little bit easier for myself on the 7v7 because we can still do let's make a change halfway through the half and make another change halfway through the half just to make sure everyone plays. But, as we start getting older, we do like to get them ready for that high school environment where ultimately the best players play. But from what I've seen from doing this job so long is one player could look like the next Lionel Messi one week, and then the next week, because they've been busy or mentally they weren't ready or they're a little bit fatigued, they could look like a totally different player. So like one week you might deserve to play 90 minutes and the next week you might deserve to get 10. And for the coaches, there's a lot of things that goes into game time. Practices. How many practices have you been at? Were you late to the warm-up? Are you wearing the right uniform? Were you paying attention in the warm-up? That's what I tell my kids for the warm-up. It's not really about their bodies. It's more about getting their minds ready and me seeing who's ready to play the game. Yeah. My teams usually start very well and then at halftime come out very slow because they're like, okay, we're halfway done. And then next minute, the other team's gone goal, goal, goal. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? So, that's our roster sizes from my point of view on what the state sets us. But also game time, there's a lot more than just picking a team goes into it. Coaches have a lot of things going on. You'll see me when I coach, I sit there with a pen and paper similar to Imade. And that's one of the things I'm tracking is game time because I'm conscious of making sure everyone plays. But if someone is on the bench and they're not trying, and when I put them on the field, they're not trying the hardest, then I'm going to go with someone else who's doing a little bit better because they've earned that right. For me, that might be an extra 2 or 3 minutes, but on 11v11, that might be an extra 10 minutes or an extra 15 minutes. So
I like the way you put that. They earn their game time. Yes, everybody, we want everybody to play. We're not saying that we're excluding any players, but, there is a clear difference between somebody who's going to start a match and somebody who's going to come on as a sub. So, it's not always the physical ability. It's not always the talent. Sometimes it is that mentality. Sometimes it is that, I want to get there a little bit early so I can get my boots on and before coach arrives or something like that. We understand that, not everybody can drive there, but, it's the little things. And very much just like the game of soccer, it is about the details. It's about the little details that you put in or that you notice or that you work at, Imade, you have the 7v7s, 2014s. Mm-hmm. How are you working with the roster size?
It's I'm definitely used to working with big rosters, so it hasn't been too much of a hassle for me. I think it's more of a hassle on the boys because they're so young and they're so fidgety and they want to get in the game and do something, and then they have to sit there on the bench. And then if they get back in the game and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then I have to pull them again, and then there's more fidgeting. Right. So I think managing that is a little tougher than me actually managing their game time. I also think at the same time managing the match and the boys gets tricky because sometimes matches need different things. Yes. Are we losing the fight in the midfield? Do we need more support? Are the 2 center backs too wide? Can we put a third player back there? And do we need to be more defensive? So I know we're not supposed to be trying to win the match, but we do have to compete. And if there's a glaring issue that needs to be solved, sometimes I need more midfielders. Maybe I don't need that forward. He's not fast or he's not strong enough. And these are all things you're calculating while trying to give everybody the same amount of playing time. That's when I think things get really tricky.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think that's also another good thing to mention is we have to manage the game, as a coach. it's it's not just about the players. It's what we have to do for 60 minutes or 50 minutes, whatever the game time is. We have a common goal. A lot of the time it's winning the match, but in training or even on the weekend, we're looking to see that progression. If we're losing, by a fair margin, we want to be able to manage that and try to solve the problems on the field. And a lot of the time it's putting certain players in or taking certain players out so that we can, as a unit, as a team, be able to compete. So I think that's
and they don't always receive it like that when
Yeah.
you come on out of the game. It's like, oh, I did something wrong. The coach thinks I did bad. I have a lot of the boys, they'll come up to me and be like, Coach, what did I do wrong? Why did you pull me from the game?
right.
And it's not about that. So, it's just another hurdle we have to manage as coaches.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's all part of the stages that we have at the club, right? Our stages are very different. So every field format, so 7v7 is love of the game. So all we want is the passion. And I actually don't mind players coming off the field being annoyed. I actually like that because it shows that they care. You know what I mean? The last thing I want is someone coming off and saying, oh yeah, I get to sit on the bench. Like we get that. Even if we played now at our age, we get subbed off, we would still have the same feeling. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mo Salah did it at the beginning of the season, gets subbed off, throws his jersey on the sideline. So, that's going to happen. The second stage, the 9v9 kind of where Aaron is, it's a love of development. So, it's just trying to see, hey, maybe someone is a little bit further ahead on their development. So that might mean that they get more game time. They might be more loving their development and willing to play multiple positions, right? Because most of our teams that we play with only play with one striker. So if you only have one person, or we have 5 people wanting to be striker, we can only have one at a time. But could you play attacking midfield? Could you play left midfield? Could you play right midfield? And if your child, son or daughter has that passion, it's only going to help them. And then when they get to 11v11 pre-high school, it's love of competition. So we're going to stick them in regional leagues where we might lose. And kind of what we're doing in this Zone 1 Academy, we're putting ourselves against the best teams because we don't want to go into a league and sandbag it and be like, oh, we won 9-0, but our kids didn't get challenged at all. I'd rather lose games and make sure they're challenged. And that's all part of those steps that we have, love the game, love of development, and love the challenge. And then not until we get to high school is it more about the competing and trying to actually win games. So yeah, no, we're not openly saying here we're going to go to the game at the weekend and openly try and lose. No, we're going to try and help them play. But again, if we lose by 1, we lose by 3, we lose by 4, we win by 5, doesn't really matter to us because it's more of the development that we're looking for. Different if we grab Coach Marty and stuck him on here, or Coach Colin at the high school, totally different environment. Or even what Coach Anthony's doing with the ECRL guys. If we're traveling all the way down to South Jersey, we're playing a win.
Right.
So, it does differ based on, age group, environment, league structure, and what stage you are in your development at the club.
Right. That's that's interesting. It's funny to see how different field sizes, the roster and the subs are managed. So it's a great thing to know for parents at least, and also players. It's not just because you're performing badly. It's there's a lot of other factors that go into it. So we can move on straight from that to go over coaching styles. And I'm pretty sure that all the parents and the players know if you've been coached by different coaches, they're not all the same. We say different things or set up our sessions differently, or maybe timing is a thing. Tom, can you talk a little bit about your coaching style? Because I've coached with you for 3 years now, and we have very different coaching styles. You have some similarities, but
yeah, I think with my age group, I'm more of the laid back fun coach. That's just kind of my personality in general. I like to have fun and smile and laugh and enjoy. And I think it does work pretty well with the age groups that I have. But I think the one that I've got to manage is I am fully in that love of the game. So if I'm that strict coach who's screaming and shouting and don't get me wrong, if someone's messing about or causing an issue, then we will try and edit that and fix it and make it better. But ultimately, I want them to love coming to soccer. My job that I tell the parents that I want your son to want to come to my practice more than he wants to go to baseball, or he wants to go to whatever other class he's doing, or what other soccer programs he's doing. That's a success in my eyes. If I finish the season and be like, oh, great, kind of what happened with last year with the 2014s. I started that team last year with a group of 8 and a group of 9. And now going into this season, we've got 3 teams of 12, 13. So it just shows like that style is working. But I don't expect Aaron to be doing that with the 9v9s. And I definitely don't expect Coach Anthony to be doing that with the 11v11 group. And it's also different on the girls. I've tried to coach girls before, and then my style just doesn't connect well. So, if you'd asked me 10 years ago when I moved to America, do I want to be coaching U9 boys? I probably would have been like, no, I want to be coaching MLS. I want to be coaching academy, high school. And that's the area that I kept falling back into, and I really enjoyed it. It used to annoy me when I would sit in meetings kind of in the position that you two are in now and be like, the director would be going, oh, I've got no good players coming through. Like, what are we doing at the younger age groups? And now I love it sitting here going, oh, we've got 15 players on the ECRL group at 2010. I used to coach them. We've got 2008s that are doing great, who were down in Tampa with Aaron winning competitions. I used to coach them. And I kind of see it as a sign that we are doing well from the club. And it's usually a good transition from them to go from Leon to me and then start working through that route through. So I think, my coaching style is a little bit more laid back, a little bit. I'm more of the fun guy, but we can do a good, we have a good partnership when I work with Aaron of the good cop, bad cop. I'm the good cop, and Aaron's the one who can obviously get them going. But you need that, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I will tell them I'm not going to joystick coach kids. I don't want that. I don't want, and I made that clear in the video I posted to some of the teams at the beginning of the season. We got to get away from shoot, kick it, pass. I have no problem with coaches adding instruction to games, but it's got to be a question format, right? So can we cross the ball? Is it a pass or a dribble? Is it a shot or drive to the byline? Because then at least the kid's going to think, well, which one am I choosing? Where if you're, pass it, back foot, shoot, dribble, then they've not thought the whole entire time. And Rico could have just stayed at home and played FIFA, because that's exactly the same. Right. The same style. So that's the way I work, and my coaching styles changed drastically from when, like I said, when I came, 10 years ago, 11 years ago when I came to the US, and now to what I'm doing with my guys. And I think it's also important to know your players. From my time working with, I'll pick on the 2010s, I know that with my 4-year journey with those, I could be a little bit more stricter and firmer with some players, and they need to be told they can't do something to kind of fire them up. And then I also have kids that I had to put my arm around. I was like, hey, don't worry, get the next one, kind of keep that mentality. And I think the more that families let coaches know how the sons and daughters, take information on board. Same with coaches, like for me, I'm much more of a visual learner, but some other people might be more hands-on. I know Leon's got to physically do it for him to learn as well. So I think it's the same with the kids. The more that you help the coach with your sons and daughters' learning style is only going to help the coach with their coaching style as well.
I think that goes into the next part of this, which is, connecting with the coach. I mean, you just said a bunch of really good stuff there about yourself, but also what you kind of need, as a parent. Maybe it's best if I come up, hey, Coach Aaron or Coach Tom, Coach Imade, listen, little Joey, maybe not learn the best this way. Maybe he's a more visual, maybe, he needs certain things. And that, as a coach, that definitely helps,
Absolutely.
For sure. Imade, I know that you have similarities to Tom in your coaching style. I don't.
He's a lot more energetic. I used to be like that 10 years ago. A lot of juice. I like it.
I think the energy helps at the 7v7 level, because they're still very impressionable. And if you throw energy at them, they're going to throw the energy right back, which is good. Because they're still so young, though, there's a fine line of good energy and when it's over the top.
Right.
And similar to what Tom was saying, there are players that do know how to manage it. You can tell maybe they have good discipline at home and they come in and they're ready to go. And then there's some that are all over the place and they're still learning. So it's a question of, do I need to be more sensitive with this kid, or can I be a little stricter? I have 3 different 2014 boys groups, and I think I kind of manage them a little differently. I think the RL group, although they have some quote unquote knuckleheads, they can play the game. They can move the ball a little bit. And because of that, I can actually be more easygoing with them, because I know they find love in the soccer itself. Whereas with some of the other groups, we have players that they're a little more friendly with each other. They come in and they like to talk to each other and laugh and talk about school and things like that. So you have to be a little firmer on them.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's like Tom was saying, it's definitely a balance of player and what they are like and the energy they bring in. I don't think there's a blanketed coaching style that I would use for any team. I had 2006 girls at my last club and I was strict with them.
Yeah.
I had to be, or they would slack off and we would get nothing accomplished.
Right.
So it's definitely, I know there's a period of time it takes me to figure out a team, but I do know it has to be customized to that team
For
when it
sure.
comes to coaching.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with, the personality of the kids. Some of it has to do with the field size. Some of it has to do with the ability. Personally, for me, I always worked as a player, worked better when my coach, joked a little bit, maybe at the beginning of the session or during water break. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. And that's how I operate, is that, I'm all for joking around and having a little bit of fun and messing around sometime. But for me, when we're ready to go train, then we're ready to go train. We have to be tuned in and ready to learn and ready to listen and ready to compete. And that's what Inter, that's the model for Inter, is you have to want all these things and want to learn. And for me, Tom called me the bad cop, but I don't think I would consider myself a bad cop really, but I am a little bit more stern. I mean,
So a bad cop.
I guess. Yeah, sure.
Exactly what happens if you watch the TV shows. Good cop, bad cop routine.
I'm not gonna berate anybody for mistakes. In fact, I encourage the mistakes, but for it's how you deal with these things. And if you just if you spray a pass 20 yards wide, it goes out of bounds, or you smash it at some kid's chest, and you laugh about it, la 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 la. What does that do? Because if you're playing bad passes, whether you realize it or not focusing on it, that doesn't just affect you, that affects the whole team. So if we're not serious in certain situations, for me, I get a little upset. And I'm going to tell you, there's reasons for the things that we do. There's reasons for the things that I tell you and what I want from you. But I'm not just going to say, oh, because I said so, because that's not fair.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good trait of yours, though, if I'm honest, man, to be able to coach. Since you've been here, you've probably coached every single age group at the club, probably by U13, maybe. I think this might be the only one you've missed out on. And you're also able to do it at the U15 academy level as well. So I think it does show good flexibility on your behalf. And like like Imade said, you've got to be able to adapt. Gone are the days where you show up to a practice with a session plan and just run, you know what I mean, and go from there. So, I can look at my session plan and be like, oh, that's out the window after 3 minutes because 5 kids haven't showed up.
Exactly.
I'm not got the same space that I thought I would have. So, being adaptable and, being able to work on the fly is massive.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's I think it's interesting to, hear everybody talk about their own coaching styles, because what I see you on the field, I see you on the field, I see Quinn on the field, but coming from you guys, I think that's also interesting as well. We are back. Our Zoom unfortunately ended for us, and we have a new one, so got plenty of time to talk about what we need to talk
about. As our podcast grows, that would be a great point for an advertisement, right? Just need some sponsorships on here.
There you go. Get him right in the middle of the what is it, intermission.
Yeah.
So the next, we always get questions regarding, a bunch of different things, whether it be a season, roster, training sessions, games. But it looks like now one of the most common questions that we're getting as a club, because I've gotten this a couple times in the past week, is the winter schedule. So our fall schedule usually ends, early to mid-November. We try not to make it go, a little bit too far into November, but the games, I think our last game schedule is
11. Yeah, ideally they want it to be daylight savings day, which I believe is like November 5th, because obviously anything past then it becomes tricky for practices, facilities start to close, and even weekends, it becomes difficult to play games later in the afternoon there. So ideally that would be our last weekend, would be November 5th. There are a few teams who have games scheduled later, and obviously if we do get more rainouts, the weather's not been very helpful at the moment, and this weekend looks like quite wet as well. So luckily the boys, most of us are indoors anyway at Chelsea Piers, so we shouldn't be affected too much. But yeah, if rainouts happen, then we do get extended. The one thing we are worry of is if we do extend further into November, we would have to have every single team practicing on the turf, which would very limit our coaching spaces because we don't have the chance to spread out and go on the grass or whatnot, because that's where the lights will be. So the season should finish around the 5th. If not, it will extend to the following week. So like the second week of November. And then usually that's it. We don't really go past the second week of November. Main reason for that is our high school kids come back. So we go from having like 30 teams at the club to nearly having close to, I guess it's like 45 teams once all the high school guys come back. And we start putting our attention a little bit more into them. So like the younger guys start to slow down, the high school guys pick up and keep going. If you are part of the ECRL group, that'll keep going pretty much year round because we play one game in November and 2 games in December. So we got to make sure we're going for that. But if you are part of our normal teams, the normal, 2015 SL, 2013 EDP, 2011 RL, the girls programs that fall into those same age groups, then you would be looking to slow down. With the new turf, it does allow us opportunities to do more things. We are looking at running, Thanksgiving camps and programs and clinics, or giving our coaches opportunities to run things for themselves if they want to on the turf. We might do things between that little window between Christmas and New Year as well. Anything that kind of gets added is like a bonus. Some of the things will be at an additional cost. Throughout the winter, we do have extra programs. Extra time is pretty popular, down at SPU, because we can only do so much during the winter because of facilities, and usually the weather is not phenomenal in Connecticut over that, November to April kind of time. So typically a team would get 1 practice a week indoors, which should be Northeast Athletic Center, Sono, and then 1 practice outdoors, normally on the weekend. So we are in the process of signing a contract with Tomlinson, where we did stuff last winter. So we are going to use that. We will have probably some of our high school teams working in Milford using the facilities we have there. And then also we have All Saints and the turf. The only issue is, let's say, Ashley's got a few high school scrimmages for the girls. She would then take up a 2-hour slot, and it doesn't mean that, the younger guys could come in or the younger girls could come in. So expect 2 events every week, starting kind of January time through to like Easter. Easter's early this year, so that would be kind of the winter. There may be additional like street soccer events thrown in. We might say, all right, U10, U9, U11 all come into All Saints. Myself, Imade, Aaron will be there, and we'll just run a street soccer event, knowing that everyone won't be able to attend because they might have different things, they might have vacations. But we do want to maximize the turf what we have. And then in addition to, there's those other programs that I was talking about. So extra time's a good one. Doing SPU, the strength and injury prevention, things we spoke about in the last podcast. We'll have our winter league running again. We're trying to figure out whether that would be better done at All Saints outside, opposed to doing it indoors at Solno. We're a little bit more limited on space, and timing becomes a little bit of an issue, mainly for the staff. There was weekends last year that I was there. I'm pretty sure Aaron, you was one of them. We was there for 6 hours. And, at the start, we was very energetic. And then by the time we got to the last one, we want the energy to be the same all the way through. And if we did it at All Saints, yeah, the weather might be more of an issue, but we could have 2 9v9 games going at the same time. We could have 7v7 games going. We could even split the 11v11 field into 4 quarters and have 4 games going at a time, where we can then, it would allow parents to be like, okay, I'm going to play every Sunday 1 till 2 at All Saints, instead of it being a little bit more mixed match. So we are looking at that. And then another thing that we have done in the past is our elite group training, where, our coaches would have the ability to do a session with 4 players for up to an hour and 1 coach. And then we would do that for a few weeks. I know I did that last year with a few of my players. I'm pretty sure you was there as well, Aaron, right? And we had Stephen and Anthony there. So that's something as well we're considering. But yeah, as for like team things, starts to slow down. And then the winter, we would typically say runs from January through till the end of March, early April, and then the season should start right around the weekend after Easter. And that's what I was trying to get at the beginning when we spoke about roster sizes. The schools over here don't all have the same spring break. So 1 week, the public schools might be off and the private schools might be in, and vice versa. And that's how, and why we need these rosters to be a little bit bigger, just to compensate and help us there, because we do want you guys ultimately to go and have an opportunity to spend time as a family. If I had the opportunity to go away for spring break with my family, I would definitely do it. But obviously, I'm here during the season, and we've got to make sure. So, you guys go and enjoy your spring breaks, but, expect us to have games anyway, then weekends.
Right. Right. Well, yeah. And, I think it's good to acknowledge that we have plenty more soccer to be played, throughout this fall season. But it's also really important that, we figure out and let parents know what our programs are for
to be fair, it's great to those parents who are organized, right? This is kind of what my wife is. She's the one who's trying to plan my schedule months in advance, and I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow. So it's just kind of, we want to make sure we help every, each way parents are. That's one of the conversations I'm having now. Hey, my son, we go skiing a lot. We want to book our skiing that doesn't clash with the soccer.
Yeah.
No problem. But we just don't know the answers right now. We do hope to have it kind of this time next month, towards the end of October. We'll have a better idea. But yeah, typically nothing much end of November into December team wise. There will be additional things to sign up for and take part in, but nothing much like, hey, your coach is not going to get annoyed if you're not at one of these events. And then for those people that are new to Premier Soccer with us, the EDP League doesn't run games through the winter just because of the weather. We would cancel more games than anything else, and most grass facilities in the area close from Thanksgiving till Easter anyway. So some of these facilities where we go play at Eastern and you might play against 6 or 7 different clubs, that facility is closed. So that's why we don't have games. But what we might do a little bit more on the boys' side during the winter is do some scrimmages. You might see my teams play against the Imades. You might see Aaron's play against Sean's. You might even see us reach out to Union or Lichfield, or even some of the other clubs. We're so close with some of these clubs around here. Your Chelsea Piers, your AC Connecticut, FSA, Oakwoods. We can get scrimmages if we want. It's just usually finding the field space, especially for the smaller sides. I don't know of any official size turf 7v7 and 9v9 fields. Usually they're played across an 11v11. You've got to put cones out and mark them out slightly differently. Ideally, when we finish All Saints, we'll have some of those. We're going to have a fully correct size 9v9 turf field and a fully correct size 7v7 field, and then that'll be a little bit different. But you guys have seen, that'll be a few more seasons down the line before we get the 2 extra turf fields in there. But yeah, so there should be games on the weekend, practices during the week.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that information, Tom. So now we can head on over to our weekly discussion topic. Last week it was the roles of the central attacker. Per Imade's request, this week is now the fullbacks. And we had a little discussion before. That role of fullback is, I believe, slowly dying now. It's almost gone. Everybody's moving to more of a wing back position, depending on the formation that they play. But as a winger or as a fullback yourself, Imade, I know you played a bunch of different positions, but fullback being one of your primaries. Can you just explain some of the roles when you were playing that fullback position?
With first, ultimately we get the ball back and you're the first point of width. We're building out of the back and you're the first point of width. So making sure I'm very close to the touchline and ready to receive the ball. Also, the other side of it, when the other team is pressing, they're generally forcing the ball out wide. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like they're planning for the ball to hit your feet. So you would generally receive the ball and I'd have a player cutting off my back pass option and looking to play forward. So I think good decision-making when making progressive passes. Are you hitting the ball into the center mid? Are you playing long? Do you have the ability to receive and explore those options with something? But I think if I were to stress one, like I said in the beginning, it's really the width.
That's in possession.
In possession. Out of possession, you're generally marking. I played left fullback, so you're generally marking the right attacking midfielder, which in most cases is generally a pacey, very, very technical player. So while you do have liberties to get forward, there's always that uh, piece in the back of your mind that I need to mark that player, that right attacking mid or that right winger, because when they lose the ball, I know he's going to be out on the other side. So there's a tremendous amount of trust I feel in your awareness and your defensive 1v1 defensive ability and positioning. It's normally such a two-sided job because yes, you're an option, like I said, in building out of the back, but you do have to defend a lot of very, very possibly the best players on the team.
Right.
I say normally because you look at teams now and the fullbacks are not the best defenders.
Right.
And they don't have to be. I think the upside in their attack is much better than the weaknesses they have in defense. So they start. I'm talking right now and I'm picturing Trent Alexander-Arnold in my head.
Sure.
For me, he's fantastic on the ball. There have been arguments to throw him in the midfield. He's just very, very technical.
Are you saying he's not good 1v1 defending? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying he's not good 1v1 defending. I don't think it's his specialty.
Right.
I think you look at a player like that and there are justifications for him to play in higher positions.
Sure.
But to justify him as a right back based on defensive skill and positioning, I wouldn't do.
He would make the cut.
He wouldn't make the cut. No. I'm a Chelsea fan and I look at Reece James.
Yeah.
A little more rugged in the body. Fantastic crosses he can put into a box. I don't think he's particularly a great defender.
Sure.
That being said, he would walk into how many starting 11s? You know, it's what the game demands, and right now the game needs attacking minded fullbacks. I know I'm going off on tangents, but you look at wingers nowadays, and a lot of them are inverted, like Vinny Jr., Asensio from Madrid to play on the right side, which them cutting in now vacates that space on the width for somebody, and it's become the fullback.
Right.
So I'm helping build up. I'm a part of the progression. Sometimes I'm pinning the other sided fullback for a long ball. Even I have the freedom of the line. It's to me, it's crazy how the game has changed and how it's molded the fullback. I could keep going. It's
yeah. Someone with your experience playing in that role, you know,
it's a lot. You know, I don't know if I mentioned the athletic.
Need to be athletic.
Yeah, you need to be able to run. I don't care how good you are at reading the game and seeing your man. Just being an option for the ball and then having the responsibility of defending demands so much athleticism from you.
Those recovery runs are essential.
I think it shows how much it's changed, right? When I'm a little bit older than you two, but when I used to play, that's where the kid who wasn't very good used to play. You know, you'd stick him at fullback, get him out of the way, and just tell him to lump the ball up the field. Where now, if you did that, you would cause yourself more problems than you would fix.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, because that when I grew up, it's like there used to be a saying like nobody wanted to be Gary Neville. You know, because Gary Neville was just and he was a very. If I could be as average as Gary Neville was and have the career he had, then it's, you know, it'd be a hell of an achievement. But you know, nobody looked at him going, "Oh, I want to be the next Gary Neville." And now you like, even you just look at the England team, like we have 4 really good right backs. You know, and you've got Kyle Walker, you've got Trent, you've got Reece James when he's healthy, and Trippier. You know what I mean? Like we used to have Gary Neville. You know what I mean? And now you're trying to think, okay, you base your teams on who you're playing against on your fullbacks. You know, if you're playing against one of those tricky wingers, you know, usually he won't play Trent, he'll play Trippier or Kyle Walker if he's got to defend Mbappe or something like that. Right. So it is now starting to be more, you know, the fullback position, and like obviously it's lucky when you're a professional you can have 2 or 3 players for each position and kind of base it on there. Like when I used to be part of an academy system back in England, the head coach wouldn't have a fullback who was smaller than 6'1" because it was so aerial in England. Everything's in the air. You kind of pick on that smaller fullback, and if you're 5'10", 5'9", and you're up against a striker, Peter Crouch, I'm like picking out in my brain who's massive, really tall guy, then you've got no chance. So, you know, it kind of comes down to that. And then now you've got Pep, who has some of the best fullbacks in the world and doesn't even play them as fullbacks when in possession. They drop into like midfield and
right.
those little spaces in in midfield to then allow the wide players, your Jack Grealishes and your Foldens, to be even wider, to be more isolated 1v1. Where when we grew up, it was more isolate 2v1. Can it be the fullback and the winger against the other team and kind of work that way? So no, I do really like that from the fullback point of view. One from me, because I sometimes used to have to do that. I used to be terrible at ball watching. Ball would be on the other side. I'd be stood there going, it's not going to get past that guy. It's not going to get past that guy. And then all of a sudden I forget to go with my player and he's got to tap it at the back post and I'm walking to halfway line, like trying to avoid eye contact with the coach. So I think the mental side of playing that game and being 100% switched on, because you ultimately defend with the mindset of what if my centre back misses the ball? What if that guy gets ahead of me and I can't catch up? And I think that's one of the hardest positions to play from a defensive point of view when the ball's on the other side, because it's so, you've got to be watching him, you've got to be watching the ball, you take your eye off the ball and the good players will make the run in behind you when you see the pros play. So I do think it is a tricky one, but also a hard one to coach, right? Because 7v7, we play with two at the back, not really coaching fullbacks. You've got to start coaching your wingers. And if you're asking a winger to be an attacker and a defender, it's a pretty hard one to teach. You don't really start teaching, I guess, until your age, really, Aaron, with the 2010s, right? You can still focus on it there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to note that, the different field sizes, like you said, 7v7, you play with two center backs. With my 9v9s, I play three in the back. So I do have that right and left back, but, like the roles change, I think that one of the biggest things in, the past couple of years and the difference between fullback and now going into a wing back. And I think a lot of it really is and has to do with the possession. A lot more teams are playing that possession game. And, even the goalkeeper, not just a defensive player anymore. Even the goalkeeper has to be good with his feet now, has to be confident with the ball and playing the long passes, even short passes. So, as a fullback, you have to be able and confident with your feet to keep the ball, to keep possession. Even when I was growing up, if you lost the ball, sure, fine. I mean, it's just a fullback trying to play the ball, but now you lose the ball and it's like, hey, this guy, he can't pass anymore. What's going on? So only his job is defending. Well, no, it's not necessarily the case, so, I think it's interesting to see how the roles have kind of changed and evolved along with football as a whole. But as a center back, I played center back for most of my life. Wasn't my favorite position. My favorite position was a 6. But as a center back, and I always had to have my fullbacks on a leash and tell them where to go. And because I don't have as many physical responsibilities as a fullback does, because I don't have those fast wingers. I don't have, hopefully I don't have to go 1v1. I'm okay with keeping the ball, but, you're standing right, you're on the same back line, but the roles are very different. And, especially when you're defending, say a cross or, like a diagonal or something that, as a center back, I'm looking for and trying to cut out that pass. But as a fullback, you're really stepping in and trying to defend that before it even gets that far, before you even, before the attacker even has the ability to play that ball. You're trying to cut in, win that ball before it's even, a possibility of getting that cross in. So interesting to see how the roles have changed.
Who do you consider a top fullback or top fullbacks nowadays? I know I mentioned Trent. We talked about Reece.
Yeah. Not just because I am a Milan supporter, and Tom is going to laugh now. Davide Calabria.
Just the way you say it. That's what makes me laugh.
Because it's his name.
If you said it like a normal person, it'd just be fine.
David Calabria.
See, I know what you're talking about now.
His name is Davide. Davide Calabria, but has been with Milan for some years now, and I believe in the past 2 years, he's gotten that captain's armband. You know, he's going in and starting every match, not because he's a strong defender, very strong defender. And I don't think he's much taller than me. I think he's like 5'8", 5'9", whatever it is. But he has that more leadership role. Being able to go forward, being able to keep the ball. But the roles have changed, and he is someone who Milan can count on to go step in, win the ball, and then go and play possession, go and combine with Ruben Loftus-Cheek or Reinders, who's in the midfield. And now you have Pulisic on that side too. He's no doubt able to combine, and he played a bunch of really good balls in the box against Newcastle yesterday. Unfortunately, we couldn't get anything out of it, but he's a player, and I think of Ignacio Abate as well. Ignacio Abate is like, he was the guy. When he was playing, he was that. He would crunching tackles, but has no problem playing possession and playing with his feet. And when I think of a fullback, when I think of somebody who's just innately good at keeping track of attackers, keeping possession of the ball, winning the ball 1v1, cutting out crosses, those are the players that I think about.
Yeah, but for me, I'm going to go a little bit more older, because unfortunately my current level of watching soccer is League One, so there's not many good players that I'm watching on a weekly basis there and there. But two players that stick to my mind, especially when I grew up in that 4-4-2 era, everyone just played 4-4-2, was the two Brazilian boys, Cafu and Roberto Carlos. Man, they were unbelievable as fullbacks, playing the same team at the same time. I remember that goal. Roberto Carlos scored the free kick like that. I was like, this guy's doing this from fullback, and then Cafu just never stopped. Plus, they had the Brazilian flair, and like I said, that was during the same time that I'm growing up watching Gary Neville. Going, well, that's who would I rather be, Cafu or Roberto Carlos or Gary Neville? So I think it's gone there. But I think most of the English guys. I think one of the most underrated English players, in my opinion, is Kyle Walker. He's pretty much won every
I agree with that 100%.
You know what I mean? And it's only since Pep's got hold of him where he started to get a little bit more credit.
He was at Tottenham before?
Yeah, he was at Tottenham. He did really well there. Then obviously got the move to City. But even when he first started, he played quite a little bit for Sheffield United, who was his hometown team. And he did really well there as well. So, but he was one of those who was like, we talked about, he had the athletic base. Like, he had great athleticism, but his passing was never great. Like, he didn't have the ability to break lines. And now, as he's developed through, you know what I mean, he's come into a great defender. And when the semi-final of the World Cup didn't go the way we wanted for England, but if his task was to keep Mbappe quiet, he did a very, very good job of that. And for me, if I had to pick, the older ones would be those two. I love watching Cafu and Carlos play in like the late 90s. I thought that was really enjoyable to watch when I was a kid, in that love the game kind of stage of just watching, going, wow, like this is unbelievable. So yeah, but I'm interested to see the next phase, because we've gone from 4-4-2 to 4-5-1 to now 3-5-2. So we'll be changing again soon, and nobody will have wing backs. Everyone will have fullbacks again. So it is interesting how they change. Like Gareth Bale, one of the best players in the last.
One of my favorites.
Started as a left back.
Know what I mean?
Started as a left back, and then all of a sudden flew all the way through to being a phenomenal, left winger or even right winger if they played him off the other side.
I'm going to throw out a name, and it's somewhat of a controversial name for some people, but Marcelo, such a creative player. He's so creative. Ball control, first touch, decision-making, that he has that Brazilian flair, like you said, but isn't regarded as, one of the best fullbacks. I think purely because, one, maybe a little lazy in certain times. But I just think that, for the way that Brazil had played and for the way that Real had played, he worked in that system. But as a defender, It wasn't the best 1v1, wasn't the best in position or discipline or anything like that. But
I think it comes down to the team
Yeah.
sometimes. And going back to Kyle Walker, even like you said, when he came into Man City, wasn't the best. Got a lot of time, got to be in the system for a little bit, and became a player. And for me, this is a big thing because as a Chelsea fan, players don't really get that opportunity. It's you play, you don't perform, you're put on the back burner. And maybe it's a topic we have for another time, but the value of experience and actually getting a run in a team, how much does that affect a player and how successful they are? Because I feel like a lot of players are just successful because they're in a specific team and they've been in that team for a while and gotten a run. You kind of get used to things. It's the top level. I know things need to move and you need to see results, but I do think there's a big importance in experience and giving players that time to adapt.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Side note, if there's any time, I did not give my fullback, my favorite fullback, Alphonso Davies, I think is a monster on both sides.
Legend. So fast.
I don't even think of him as a defender. I know he's a great defender, but he's constantly up the field on that left flank.
Of course.
I think Canada play him as like a center attacking mid or something like that. He's just a force.
Yeah.
Another one that benefited off time, just being in that Bayern system.
And it started in MLS as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
quick MLS shout out there.
One of the first ones to really start.
I think it's all about taking your chance, right? Because he didn't go to Bayern to be a left back. You know what I mean? Like injuries happened. He fit all the MO of what a fullback has, and then he had obviously the attacking bit, and then he's just he went from nobody knowing who he was to now, if you're talking about the best 5 left backs in the game, he's got to be in that conversation without a doubt. And that's great for like the US. I know he's Canadian, but like the system that we have in North America, I think we do need a few more people like that, and hopefully there's a few more Canadians in there, a few more Americans that get there, and then it'll be exciting for when we host the World Cup in 4 years? Is it here?
Under that,
26.
Right? 3 years, yeah. We're getting there.
Anthony Quinn just joined. I don't know if we have enough time, but if you want to say a quick hi.
This is part of the rules, right? Quinny gets to pick the topic for next week.
In his Manchester United jersey.
Yeah, Quinn wants the game.
That's all the time we have for today, unless if Tom, you want to
I think Quinny has to be on the podcast next week, and the topic is box to box midfielders, just like is in his prime.
Hey, I'll get it down on the Google Drive right now. Shared.
No, but thank you for listening. I do really think this is a good way for us to get information out. I mentioned it last time. If you do have any questions for us, send them to myself, send them to Aaron, and we will definitely go over them. And want to thank Imade for jumping in. First full appearance on the podcast. Right? Sorry? First full appearance on the podcast.
Debut full appearance.
We did what, 15 minutes last week?
Cameo last week, right?
Getting my feet wet.
Yes, thank you all again for listening.
Thank you,
guys. Let us know how we're doing as well. If you enjoy these and you do hear them, you can share them. It's not just for the Inter families. We're trying to reach as many people as we can. It's definitely with these weekly discussions as well about positions. But let us know how we're doing.
Even if you don't like them, share it and let us know what you don't like about them.
I have a feeling it's mostly Tom they don't like.
I think no choice. You have to like me.
All right. Thank you again. And talk to you all next week.
Thanks for listening to the Interview Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Facebook and Instagram, and check out our website, www.interctfc.com.